So next we have the logic complexity. Okay, so what is meant by logic complexity? So Python provides the tools to construct some very complicated conditional statements. It is important to resist the urge to make things overly complex. Okay, composing Boolean expressions with and, or, and, not allows us to build conditions with arbitrarily complex logic. So we know that we all know that already. Okay, so let us see how the logic complexity arise or exist in Python and how to resolve it. Okay, so here I have taken a simple example to find the maximum value among the four values. Okay, so here I have taken four numbers: number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 from the users. Okay, and the job is to find the maximum number. Initially we are using this kind of logic. Okay, uh, if number 1 is greater than equal to number 2 and number 1 is greater than or equal to number 3 and number 1 is greater than or equal to number 4, maximum is equal to number 1. Means if number 1 is greater than number 2 and it should be also greater than number 3 and it should be also greater than number 4, then only the maximum value will be assigned as number 1. In second else if condition, in the first else if condition, we are comparing number 2 with all the remaining numbers, that is number 1, number 3 and number 4. Look at here, number 2 is compared with number 1, number 2 is compared with number 3 and number 2 is compared with the number 1 except itself. And in the second else if condition, number 3 is compared with all the remaining 3 numbers except itself. And if the number 2 is greater than all other remaining numbers, then it will be assigned to the maximum number or maximum variable. In this else if condition, if number 3 is greater than the remaining all the 3 numbers, then this number will be assigned to the maximum variable or max. Else we have checked with number 1 in the if statement, in the second if, in the first if else if statement we have checked with number 2, and in the second else if statement we have checked with the number 3, and here we left with only the number 4. So maximum will be assigned with the number 4, and finally we are printing the maximum. So look at here the logical complexity. Simply we are comparing the number 1 with the remaining numbers and number 2 with the remaining numbers and number 3 with the remaining numbers, and finally if none of the numbers becomes maximum, we are printing maximum is equal to number 4. So this is completely illogical. Okay, right? The beginner programmers or those who have less knowledge and how to use the logical expressions will write this type of complex expressions, right? Very long code to find the maximum value. Even the intermediate programmers will also write like this. So I also did the same mistake while learning. Okay, don't exclude me also. Okay, so if I select this and run the code using F9, oh sorry, let us select this entire code and run. So let us enter the value. So I would like to enter the number 1 as 2, number 2 as 3, number 3 as 5, number 4 as 8. So here the maximum number entered is 8, obviously right. Instead of using this kind of logic, we can use the simple logic. We can reduce the complexity of the conditional statements, okay, using the simple logic like this, like the one shown below, okay. So let us see what are the steps behind this simple idea. So let us see what are the simple steps behind this idea. So once again we are getting the 4 numbers from the users, number 1, number 2, number 3 and number 4. Even you can reduce these lines of code using the while statement, okay, and you can store all these numbers inside a list. While number is less than or equal to 5, you can get 4 numbers and you can store inside the list with the list name as number, and you can use the list to check the maximum value. So that is the another method. But for the beginners, instead of going to the more simple and simple method, let us see somewhat simple method, okay. Here initially set maximum equal to number 1. So this is the first step, okay. Assume that as at the initial moment, assume that the number 1 is the maximum value. Second time, compare this maximum value with the number 2. If this number 2 becomes greater than this maximum value, then replace the maximum value with the number 2. So in the third step, compare the maximum value with the number 3. If number 3 is greater than this maximum value, replace the maximum value with number 3. And in the fourth step, compare this number 4 with the maximum value, and if the maximum value and if the number 4 is greater than the maximum value, replace this maximum value with the number 4. So here in the first if statement, if the number 2 is not greater than the maximum value, then this condition becomes false. Once this condition becomes false, there is no question of evaluating the body, okay, body of this first if condition. And look at here the second if statement. These are the sequential if conditions, okay, sequential if conditionals, not the multi-way or nested if conditionals. These are the sequential if conditionals. We are writing one if condition below the other if condition, so they are not related to each other. But as the program flow starts, the cursor or the Python interpreter will keep on checking each if condition, okay. So you should remember this, otherwise don't get confused with the else if ladder and sequential if conditionals, okay. This code is written with the help of sequential conditionals, and this code is written with the help of else if ladder or multi-way conditional statements, okay. So here if number 3 is greater than maximum value, means if number 3 is greater than the previous value of the maximum number, so here in our case the number 1, then number 1 will be replaced by number 3. If this condition becomes false, then it will check for the fourth condition, means the third if condition, okay. If number 4 is greater than max, then replace this maximum 4 by number 1, because the initial maximum value is nothing but number 1. Suppose if the second if condition becomes true, assume that number 3 is greater than maximum value, then this number 3 will be replaced by the maximum value, otherwise it will keep on checking the remaining if conditions. Okay, so this is the simple idea behind finding the larger number among these 4 numbers. Okay, as I told you, you can use the least method and while statement to do the same, means to get the largest value or the maximum value. Since we have not yet covered the while statement or while loop, once we cover the while statement or while loop iterations, later then we will show how to find the maximum value using the while statement and the for loop. Okay, so now select this program and run using F9 key from the keyboard. Let us enter the value same as before, like 2. So here I would like to enter 6, then 4, and then 9. The maximum entered number was 9. So this is how the simple logic works. So here we are getting the same result, but the logic in the second program, that is this program, is simple and easy to understand, and it also reduces the line of codes to be implemented for more and more numbers to compare and get the maximum values. So here, if you look at here in the first program, here we have written the code in such a way that it consumes more memory, because we are using number 1, number 2, number 1, number 3. We are comparing each number with the rest of the numbers except itself 3 times. Okay, but here we are just comparing the previous value and we are assigning the previous value as the maximum if the condition becomes false, and the current value if the condition becomes true. So this is the simple logic what we have used in this program. So whenever you find, or whenever you trying to find the solution, find the simple logic or use the simple logic to get the better result. Okay, so don't give complex solution or complex idea for someone else, because he or she may be expecting the simple code or simple logic to get the result. What if we explore the complex idea or complex algorithm to get the same result? He or she may not get the idea and they may get bored. Okay, use simple and very simple logic wherever necessary to get the same result. Okay, so that is the logic behind the successful coding, and that is the logic behind the successful coder. Okay, doesn't mean that I am a successful coder, since I am trying to use the simple logics in every program. So thanks for watching this. See you with the next section on iterations.